Blog Talk Radio.
I am your host of the show, Justin from Shadow Chasers Investigations, and I am joined by my wonderful hosts for tonight, Wendy and Rev Michael and Travis Shortt. We got a nice little list of hosts tonight.
Hello.
And this is Travis from Virginia.
Hi, this is Rev Michael from Into the Light with Rev Michael on Tuesday nights. How is everyone?
Okay, tonight is a very, very special broadcast. I don't know if everybody that's listening has kept up with all of the posts in the media about this house in Gary, Indiana, in my area of Lake County, where there was a case of demon possessions, and we have Reverend Michael with us right now, or Reverend Mike.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, marvelous.
Okay, so first off, I would like, we talked about this a little bit before the other day, and just what has it been like ever since all of this hit the media? What has it been like for you?
Yeah, my life hasn't been the same. It's been pretty nonstop.
I understand that, you've been getting a lot of phone calls from all over the place. Your phone's been ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to keep up with it all. But going back, now when exactly did this take place exactly? I know that this case wasn't recent, or at least that's what I heard.
Yeah, late spring in 2012.
2012. All right. And it's kind of interesting, or that it didn't catch any attention until quite recently. Now, have you been? How exactly did this get brought up into the media? Did the news contact you, or did you contact them, or was it other people involved?
Yes, someone where Latoya lives now is Indianapolis, and so someone from the Indianapolis Star received word that there was an exorcism, and they contacted Latoya back late last summer, if she would be interested in talking about it, and she was. And after they talked with her, then they contacted me. And once I heard that, she was willing to talk about everything except keeping her kids out of it, then I was free to also talk about her side of it.
Okay. Well, I saw the video interview. Was that the second time you saw her, or first time you saw her since the exorcism?
Yeah, the reporter came over from Indianapolis to Maryville, and we had about a 2 to 3 hour interview, and she recorded it herself on her own recording devices and such. And when she got back to Indianapolis, she discovered that none of it took. It either got erased or never recorded. And so she was embarrassed, and she called back a second time and said this time she'll be bringing professionals in those fields. And so she brought a professional videographer and photographer and I believe sound person and herself. And that was what would appear, all that would appear on the website and such.
Right. Now, the recording, when you guys recorded the first one, the one that didn't actually get recorded, was that actually in the house?
Yeah, no, that was in my house, in my rectory.
Oh, okay. So the second one was also filmed at your home?
And the second one, yeah, it was. I think the first one was in August. The second was in September. Now August was very warm and hot, so we were in my living room here. And the second one was in September. It was a little more pleasant, so we did that one out on the porch.
Right. The only reason why I ask is if the footage was, if the camera's mysteriously messed up, if it happened in that home, I think, to me it would have seemed, that whatever was in the home was messing with the cameras or this or that. That's just the investigator side of me. But it
also, yeah, there will be times it would mess with my communications. Occasionally, sometimes it will mess with my landline too. I notice if I ever am talking about, I've been also getting other calls from all over the country of people encountering various strange things. And when we start kind of getting into that, I notice all kinds of interruptions happening on that. So hopefully we won't have that problem. But if it does become a problem, we could always move to my cell phone. That seems to be a little bit better at times. But so far, so good.
Go ahead, Travis.
No, I'm sorry. This is Travis Shortt. First of all, it's a pleasure to get to speak with you. I've been able to follow some of the news stories that have been printed about you. But you bring up something that I find interesting. When you start talking about these things, you have problems with your telephone and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my areas of research over the past 10 years, actually going on 11 years now, was the original Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, between 66 and 67. I've become somewhat of one of the recognized experts on that event. And it's very interesting. Most of the time when I start doing interviews on the radio about those events, there's always some form of electronic interference, either with the phone that I'm on, the equipment that's being used, the individuals. As a matter of fact, I was doing an interview a couple of weeks ago, and the last 15, 20 minutes of the interview didn't record.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting that you bring up that you've had similar circumstances. I've actually even encountered that myself, just being on the phone talking with individuals about those events and the circumstances, and the phone just going totally crazy.
So, let's see, we were talking before, and the very first time I called you, I got to say, man, I was just so nervous to talk to you on the phone, because that was the first time I've talked to people. We've gotten people on the show through sending messages on the internet and this and that. And that was actually the first time I actually, got somebody's number and called them. I'm like, man, I just feel like a creeper just finding this dude's number and giving him a call, And
I've been pretty much talking to anyone who wants to listen. So.
Right, and that actually brings me to my next point or next question. Have you gotten any negative responses since all of this went public? Negative comments or such? How do you deal with that?
Not too much personally. I mean, occasionally you may. I get looking at some of the articles, and especially from the skeptic side of things. Those type of programs. They'll have all their comments down there, and sometimes I'm probably more interested in probably the people that are very much with the church and such, and their concerns. So I probably take those pretty seriously in seeing what their concerns are. Instead of just a pure skeptic, they seem pretty much, there's no convincing them anyway. So
now, how did you become aware of this case? Who contacted you first?
Yeah, it was back in April in 2012, and it was during my normal Friday morning Bible study class with my parish. And on the weekend, on Friday and Saturday, Father Yuko, who is the normal priest chaplain for the Methodist Hospital, those are his days off. So I cover emergencies for him. And usually I'll get a call from the chaplain on duty to do normal Catholic things. There's a death, needed last rites, a confession, or things like that. And so this call was much different, in which he requested that I come over and perform an exorcism. And I explained to him that in order to do an exorcism, you have to get permission from the bishop, and to get that, you need to do an investigation to prove the need of it. And I asked him what it was all about, and when he mentioned that many professional people in the emergency room saw a boy walk up the wall backwards, I said, well, there's definitely something there, and I'm willing to do that investigation. And I said, go ahead and give whoever's interested in talking my information, and I'll go and meet with them.
Right. Now, is this the first time you ran into anything like this in your life?
Probably at that level. I do get a lot of things with ghosts and in the house of parishioners or people calling for that. And those are usually fairly simple to deal with in the Catholic world. A lot of times, if you know who the person is, simply by having a mass set for them, and having the person who had offered the mass to be said to pray for them to not fear in going into the light of Jesus' merciful love. So whatever they're afraid of will be dealt with, and they're moving on and not hanging around the last moment of their life, and in the last time and space of their last moment of their life.
Mm-hmm. Are you with us, Justin?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. Well, you see,
okay.
We got like 3 other hosts here. I'm hoping that some of you guys will be asking interesting questions. Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am anyway.
I sounds like we had some sound issues.
Yeah.
I was noticing that might be our little friend.
Yeah.
Look at that. And when you call, they should come.
I've got my rosary on. They're not going to mess with me.
I didn't know you were Catholic.
I was raised that way, yeah.
No, very good.
Somewhat lapsed, but I like it.
Does that make me the only Protestant on the show tonight?
I think so.
What are we protesting?
So, what are your views and what are your views on paranormal groups and such? Have you talked to many other groups, or have you ever ran into paranormal teams while you've contacted, or other people have contacted you for help?
Just a couple recently. I didn't know there was one in the area, your group, so I never knew that. Mainly what I would see on TV. And I always liked the ones that would do investigations. I wasn't always too thrilled with just the thrill seekers, that were just kind of out there. But as far as the ones that were trying to especially help people, and get to the bottom of things, those I find a lot more interesting. Right.
A lot of paranormal investigators, a lot of them will use some of the same methods, with video recorders and audio recorders and EMF detectors. And we've talked about this before on our show. Some people view doing EVP recordings as they deem it the same as using a Ouija board, which actually my team doesn't condone the use of a Ouija board at all. But we do use audio recorders to try to capture EVPs to collect evidence. I was just wondering what your views are on that.
Yeah, you do have to watch out because you are especially in dealing with demons, because they like to manipulate and lie and attract. They're very intelligent, and they could fake things, and their main thing is to get you intrigued and curious and then start drawing you in, because they're kind of conniving, and they like to make it sound like they're your friend, and usually they'll could coordinate maybe the very first favor, something that they will do for you. That's kind of in your power, and then you end up paying for that for the rest of your life, practically. So they don't do it for free, and once they kind of get you hooked, then they keep on trying to demand more and more, and then it comes to the point a person can't go any further with what they are demanding, and that's when they turn on you, and that's usually, right, I guess, where we get involved.
Right. Yeah, well, a lot. We've had Bishop James Long on our show, and we've had other people talk about demonic type hauntings and exorcisms, and in a lot of cases, from what I've read and from what I've heard, is that usually there's more than one exorcism needed. Like usually a person will need more than one. To get rid of the demon. How many exorcisms did you actually have to perform in the house or with the clients?
Yes, I did one minor, which is the rite without the bishop's approval, which I did get the present all my findings to the bishop, but he wanted me to contact a couple of exorcists, one in the Archdiocese of Chicago and the other one in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. He didn't have one to refer me to in our diocese, so he wanted me to contact them first, and they both suggested I do a minor one as the last step before actually seeking the bishop's final approval. And so I did that one in the house, and I would say it was without effect. And then I presented that to the bishop, and he gave me final approval. And so I did the next three in my church.
Okay. When you perform the exorcisms, what kind of resistance were you experiencing, both mentally or physically? I mean, was this thing fighting back? Was it just one demon, or do you feel it was more than one?
Yeah, I do. The main manifestation for Latoya seemed to be convulsions, seizure-like things. And mainly it started with her aversion to the crucifix, to holy things, and in my particular case, the crucifix. And I found that on the very first, when I investigated her, at the very end, I had suspicions that she may be possessed. I was hearing stories all about the three children, and then something was leading me to kind of suspect her. And when I put the crucifix on her forehead, she began to convulse. I took it off immediately, and she stopped. So I saw that's one of the classic signs of possession is aversion to holy objects. And so that's what I also did in the minor one. When we got to the rite, that part of the rite, I put the crucifix on her forehead, and she convulsed.
Father Michael, may I ask a question of you?
Sure.
In dealing with Latoya and her family, were you able to ascertain what opened her family up to this demonic manifestation and oppression and possession?
It was the moment about 3 days before everything seemed to be really ratcheting up with the phenomena that would eventually drive them out of the house. And it was on a Wednesday before a big family get-together where all kinds of things were witnessed by the family who would no longer go to their home anymore, that the boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, came over to the house. and she never was trying to get rid of him, never wanted anything to do with him. I didn't get to why all that was at that point, but she mentioned that the grandmother, her mother, was in the home with the children when he came over, and she gave her a call saying he's here, and she was telling him to get rid of him, but she was mentioning that he wanted to give them something, and she asked what it was, and it was money, and so she said that was fine. And so he gives the two boys each $5, but he doesn't give anything to the girl, and I kind of found that kind of strange and asked her why was that, and she claimed that he felt that the boys needed incentive to be good while the girl didn't. But it just raised a red flag. There's something bizarre with all that, and so I would wait to let them tell their whole story and then get back to the boyfriend. And so about 2 hours into the interview, they told everything, and I said, okay, I'd like to get back to the boyfriend. There's something strange about him. And it was about 8:30 at night. It was dark then, and now a series of interruptions would occur that seemed to purposely did not want me to get on that topic. And the first thing that happened was in the bathroom light started to flicker and buzz with this electronic noise. And so they pointed that out, and that was something that they mentioned to happen, all kinds of electrical malfunctions. So I went to take a closer look at that, and the moment I got to the entrance of the bathroom, it stopped. It was normal again. And so I came back and made a note of that and said, okay, what about your boyfriend? And again, that moment it started buzzing and flickering, and the same thing happened when I went back to the doorway. It stopped. But this time, as I was walking by, I just happened to say, I guess it's scared of me. And immediately it began to buzz and flicker, and this time I could go into the bathroom and see it doing that. And then I also went and got my crucifix and even put it on top of it, and it still continued to do that. And then I made a note of all that as it continued, but I wasn't going to let it deviate me from going further. And so when I asked that question again, a second set of phenomena began to happen, which they pointed out to me and also mentioned happening. And that was the Venetian blinds, the rod that you twist to open and close them, the one in their kitchen began to sway back and forth. And they pointed that out, so I went to take a closer look at it and seeing what could cause it to be swaying. And I noticed right next to it were the three cords that you pull to open it vertically. And at the end of those cords were tags at the end, but they were perfectly still. And then, in fact, the furnace kicked on, and there was a vent underneath, and then all those tags began to flutter wildly. And then the furnace kicked off again, and then the tags became perfectly still. But through the whole thing, the rod continued to sway. And then what they always reported go like from one window to the next. And that started to happen through the living room. And I was looking, and it also, they would seem to sway in time, like they're coordinated. And that was happening from one Venetian blind to the next. And then I looked in the grandmother's bedroom. And then when I went to Latoya's bedroom, I didn't even bother to look at the cord. What I saw right down the middle of the blinds was, it looked like someone just poured a couple ounces of liquid right down the middle of the blinds. And it was like dripping from, slat to slat. And I asked her about that. What is that? And she mentioned that just after that party where a couple of days after the boyfriend came, they got another church involved. They first went to their church, but they didn't want nothing to do with that. So they were able to find another church willing to help them. and they suggested that she put olive oil on all the doorways and windows, and she made a especially huge cross on both of her blinds. And so this was like the vertical portion of the cross that would liquefy at times. And even though she did this about month and a half before, and when I walked in, and it was going through each room to do the blessing, I don't remember seeing that. And she said, no, it dries up. It's dry, but occasionally it will liquidate. And so I felt it. It was oily, and so I went back and made a note of all these things that was occurring, and then I said, okay, let's get back to the boyfriend. And this time, Rose, the grandmother, pointed down at the feet of Latoya, and around her, I could see all these like footprints. And so I then don't remember seeing them before, and I kind of went over, and and they were wet. You could smear them. They're watery. I mean, to make them, you would almost have to step in a puddle and then start tramping around there. But there was no source of it. It was like out the door, or I even thought, well, maybe when I went into the bathroom or the kitchen, there was a leaky faucet or something but it didn't lead from there. And I also tested those floors; they were all dry, and when I sprinkled the holy water, it's just little droplets. So I had no explanation for why wet footprints would be just appearing around Latoya. And so again, I made a note of all that, and then tried to get to the boyfriend again. And this time, now she was starting to get sick. She mentioning a headache, and then all of a sudden, kind of being nauseous, and then feeling chills. And she went in to get a blanket and was shivering. And then all of a sudden, she throws the blanket off and says she's burning up. And it was then that I decided, well, maybe she's possessed. And so I took my crucifix, and that's when I put it on her forehead, and she began to convulse, and I took it off immediately. She stopped convulsing, and I said, you're possessed. You have a aversion to holy things. And she says, yeah, I know. She never mentioned anything. We're always looking at the children. And then I did ask her mother if she, felt that something ever entered into her. She said it never entered her. One time it attacked her in the basement and was trying to choke her and such. But and I asked do you mind if I test you out, and she was fine. And but it was about 10:30 at night at that point, and she was really getting sicker and sicker. And I said, okay, I think I have enough information here. But I do need to find out more about your boyfriend. And when you're feeling better, just give me a call. And also, any family members, especially the ones that were at that party, they could also call me as well. And so I do get a call the next day. It was from the grandmother. And she was mentioning that night after I left, they would go back to, they were staying for a couple weeks when the last thing that happened in the home that drove them out, they went to a hotel room, and then they would be spending the rest of the time with her brother, Rosa's son. And it was kind of a crowded situation with their family, and Rosa and Latoya were sleeping in the same bedroom in twin beds. And that night, Rosa was awakened in the middle of the night, and she noticed that the covers were off her feet. And so she kind of kicks back the blanket and the bedspread and, the sheet and all that over her feet. And when she gets that in place, she notices all of a sudden off of Latoya's feet that bedding comes without no one touching it. All of a sudden it just flips off of her feet. And that wakes Latoya up, and then she's kind of kicking, and trying to get that back, covering her feet. And so I was saying, there seems to be a theme here with feet, the footprints, and now what you mentioned there, and that's kind of a common entry for the demonic and such. So I was, when Latoya was very sick that following day, so when she's feeling better and maybe mention, if she could think of anything with feet, especially in regards to the boyfriend, and get back with me. And so the following day, Tuesday, Latoya is feeling better, and she recalls something that she never thought of, and it kind of solves a mystery in the family, that when she just first met that ex-boyfriend, she had just bought a pair of new Air Jordan sneakers for women, and they were missing, and she thought one of the kids took it, or was borrowing it, or using it, or ruined it, or something, stole them, or hiding them, or whatever. And they all denied it, and she even went to her mother and says, mother says, what I'm going to do with a pair of women's sneakers, and such. And so they could never find them. They just went missing. And also at that same time, she remembers that she had a stack of pictures, and she was looking to enlarge the family one and to frame it and put in their living room. So she went through that whole stack and couldn't find that picture. And she also noticed other pictures missing, especially of individual members of the family. And so she went to each of the members, and they had no idea of anything. Now she's kind of getting angry that things are missing and people are stealing things. You're going to get the bottom of this. Everyone's denying it, and so it's kind of creating quite a source of havoc in her family. And then she remembers something very strange, that the boyfriend would eventually move in with them, and the first night together, he asked her for a pair of her underwear. And she goes, "What? Are you crazy? What do you want that for?" And, right. and he says that he wants it as a souvenir of this marvelous experience they had. And she says, "No, you're crazy. You're not going to have that." But I asked her, did he? I know you didn't give it to him, but could he have taken it? And she said, "Well, I had so many. I don't keep that close of a track of it. I can't recall if I didn't give it to him, but he could have taken it later." And so then she goes on to why she actually moved into the house. She moved in November of 2011, and around September of 2011, she gets this call from this woman who claims to be his wife. And she mentions, I guess she found the phone number in his cell phone or something, and asked her what is she doing with his wife, with her husband. And she goes, "Oh, I never knew he was a married man." And that kind of explains a lot of things, because I was catching him in a lot of lies, and there was, and so I don't really want anything to do with him, and so he's your problem and such. But she also said something that seemed to be a little bit over the top. She said, "You will regret ever messing with my husband," even though Latoya was saying, "I don't want anything to do with him anymore. He's all yours." So. And so that kind of seemed to be the source. And then he would always kind of appear, at her house, and instead of calling the police, that this guy's stalking her practically, she decided the best solution was to move. And she asked her brother if there was any place available with his landlord. He says he has this house here that's ready to go and such, and it was a nice size house, especially with the basement and such, and it was really cheap and reasonable, and so she was able to move in right away. and I guess eventually he found out where she was living, maybe followed her home from work or something, and then began showing up at the house. But she insists that he never made it inside the house. But it did seem like there was some sort of curse placed on her. And since she was going to be moving out of that house anyway, she had another brother who lived in Indianapolis, and his landlord said that there's a apartment available there, and I thought, well, maybe this would be a good way to break whatever curse he may have had, and I was willing to make the 2-hour drive out to Indianapolis and bless her new place, and with a more severe blessing with salt and around the entrances and windows and such, and hopefully that would seal whatever curse may have been, placed. But it also demanded that she never let the boyfriend know where she's living, and tell all your friends and relatives not to, let him know in case he's inquiring, where she moved to. And if you ever see him following you, from Gary or something, don't go to where you're living, ditch him or whatever. So she was all willing to do that, and so that's what I did. And then she was going to move in on Mother's Day weekend of that time. And she called me the morning after the first night that she was there. And she mentioned that in her dreams would be her boyfriend abusing her and raping her and cussing at her and beating her up and just tormenting her in every way possible. And then she would wake up and couldn't fall. If she fell back asleep, the dream would recur. So she had a totally sleepless night. And this was a new experience for her. And so it looked like, okay, the curse is pretty strong that he put on her. It looks like the only way to get rid of that would be with an exorcism.
So basically, there was a curse, and then with all of the fear of everything that was going on and the worrying and probably a little bit of oppression and depression, whatever was manifesting was able to mess with her and the rest of the family easier.
There's also another it was a perfect storm. When I went through the house, I didn't notice it. And the following Wednesday, from that Sunday that I did the investigation, the police also did an investigation with the Children's Protective Services as well. And they mentioned that when they looked underneath the steps to the basement had a normal poured cement floor, but underneath the steps looked like a dug-out dirt area. And that was the cement was cut away, and something was buried underneath there. And I go, I didn't bother to look there. So, there's something there, and we do need to check that out. And so the following Wednesday, which was after Mother's Day, we got permission to go digging underneath there from the landlord and from Latoya and Rosa, and no one seemed nervous about that, and gave us permission. And so that evening, they were also wanted to get a cadaver dog to do that as well, to check around. And I guess the only cadaver dog in our area is in Chicago, but they say that, that's for, like, if you don't know where anything could be in a large field or forest, they're very good at that. But any dog, if you have a specific location, they could sense, buried remains or whatever. And so they got the local Lake County police dog to go through the house, and they also brought him purposely down into the basement there, but it had no reaction to anything. So we did that first, and then we began our digging. And about 2 feet deep, that's when we started to find a series of strange items that were buried underneath the steps. And the first thing we would see was a fingernail. And it could have been a real one or an applique one. And then the next thing we found, which made him kind of nervous, was 2 feet deep, was a pair of women's panties, but it looked more like for an older lady. It also looked like many years, decades back too. Not kind of the modern styles, but more cottony and such. And then we also found a pair of boys' socks. Now, at that time, I went with Zach Bagans yesterday. We dug up those things again. And at that time, I thought that they were just the ankle portions with the foot cut off. But actually, when we examined them closer yesterday, we found that the foot portion was actually tucked in underneath the ankle. And what I thought was the ankle part, the top part, was actually where the bottom, the foot part of the sock was tucked underneath, and the kind of raveled edge was actually the top part of the sock. So and both of them were done that way. So that kind of, so I was kind of incorrect. We were incorrect when we first saw them, and then we found what was a very heavy weight. It was about 1 inch to 2 inch in diameter, weighed about 10 pounds. It's heavy metal, corroded, looked like it had been in the ground a long time, and had a little loop on the top. And we're trying to figure out what this weight was for, a grandfather's clock. And then the Gary officer mentioned that in these old Gary homes, it either could have been a counterweight to the window or for the drapery cord to hold it down so you could open up the drapes, if one or the other thing for that. And we're kind of thinking this could be a murder weapon, what we're finding. And then we got a little deeper, 2.5 feet deep, and then there was this long brown thing that kind of looked like a bone. And now they were very careful. They're starting to just brush things away and take a lot of pictures and such. And then they eventually tapped it and pulled it out. It was plastic, and it was like a long shoehorn broken down the middle for some reason, lengthwise. And let's see, and then we also found this red oval lid to maybe like a teapot or something, but we're trying to find the container, and we were never able to find anything. And eventually got about 3 feet deep and saw the pristine layer of sand. All the sand before that was pretty roiled up, like things been dug up and buried. And this was a pristine layer, so we didn't have to dig any deeper. And we went to the sides a little bit and didn't find anything. And they, concluded it wasn't a crime scene. So I just, so they put the items back. I thought they actually put the items back in. I discovered that they actually kept them off to the side, and they kind of got covered over with the sand as they were kind of filling in the hole. And I just blessed it with blessed salt to seal it over. And as we were doing all that, when she was also making back of 2 months before the crosses over the windows and the doorways. She also, because there were footsteps going up and down the steps, she put signs of the cross above on the ceiling part, and it had like a stair-step effect on the risers. She would make a sign of the cross. And those that vertical shaft part of the cross, the vertical part was dripping oil and was dripping it from those two crosses there onto the stairway. And then we were kind of with our sandy shoes and such, kind of tramping, mixing that with the oil dripping from that, and kind of making some muddy footprints through the house itself. And then the police officers came up and went into Latoya's room. And when I saw like one bleeding vertical section, it looked like both vertical sections, along with on the horizontal part of where she made the cross, it looked like where the handprints of Jesus would have been. Streams were also coming down. So there's like 4, 5, or 6 streams of oil dripping all over the blinds. And the policemen saw that, but they weren't sure because Rosa was sitting upstairs, and Latoya was outside with the Child Protective Service worker. They talked to her and said she was always outside with Latoya, so she wasn't sure if Rosa could have gone in and spilled oil down there. So they decided just to wipe it all down because they couldn't see a source of it. And so they wiped it all down, and they actually sealed the room. And they were kind of doing, they invited Latoya to come in, and it was dark, and they wanted to take some pictures of her, especially sitting around the house. And so they were kind of doing pictures above her and to the side of her, around her feet, to see if footprints will appear or different things like that. And there was an attic there, taking pictures in the attic, see if anything appeared and such. And after about a half an hour, they opened and unsealed that door, and all that oil reappeared. And so, so the policemen were convinced that this is just manifesting.
So the police and child services were taking pictures to see if something would show up?
Yeah, nothing really did. None of those pictures. Though there's the famous police photo that that appears on the internet with a man standing in the window. That was shot the first time they came to the house, and I think he had a electronic camera. I don't know if that was from his phone, or that might have been, because he had some equipment malfunction when he got into the house. So I think he was able to take a picture with it, but the video portion wouldn't work. And so he had to use his camera phone for that. But it did take a picture, and that was, now he didn't see anything, he was just taking a picture of the house and later discovered that figure there.
Right, you're talking about the apparition in the window or the doorway there.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at that picture, and I'm trying to think, okay, is that a reflection of somebody and this and that? And basically, I'm just trying to debunk the picture and such. Of course, it's a lot. It's so hard to do that when you weren't there. When the picture was taken, you don't know what the conditions were and such.
But no, it looks pretty, because it was just a policeman taking a picture of the house, and they didn't notice anything. He didn't see it till after the picture he went through the picture another time, and that became that famous picture. And then there was also, at the same time, that was the Hammond policeman. Then there was also the lieutenant from the Lake County Police who was also taking pictures while he was talking to his voice recorder. And there was he was down in the basement, and you could hear him mentioning, him talking about the stairs, and says he hears the stairs where they would hear the footsteps coming, and so you would hear him click 3 pictures, and between the second and third click of the pictures on his voice recorder, you hear "Hey," and in one of those 3 pictures, he later saw underneath, between the third and the fourth step, he would see to the right what looked like a white face, and right to the left part of it, but darkened in the shadows, was this like green, like adult-sized face. So the white face that he saw was more like the size of a little boy, and then there's a darker green, more indistinct and shadowy face. We're not quite sure what that is, but that's also the famous whispering of "Hey" that he recorded.
We have questions in the chat room. Do you all want to take them now, or would you rather wait until later on?
No, we can take a couple questions.
Take questions, sure.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you can hear me. This is freaky and weird.
Oh.
Okay, Dave in the chat room asks, how does salt energetically change the environment for the spirit?
Yeah, it's seemed to be a long Christian tradition where Jesus referred to Christians as the salt of the earth, and there is a section in Mark's Gospel where salt in the ancient world was especially used to before the time of refrigeration and such, to preserve foods and keep things from decaying. So it was always seen as good, a good effect on creation, keeping the decay of evil from happening. And I think the prophet Elisha also threw salt on the waters to keep the evil effects from affecting the good in creation. So it's kind of a long biblical tradition on that. Mm-hmm. And so we're using blessed salt. Not just normal salt, but it has a special blessing that wards off, that has a specific purpose of warding off evil.
Similar to holy water?
And sometimes you can mix it with holy water, too, as well. As holy water also has that effect. Now, salt is a little bit more where you could, create a line, which you can't do with water. So a lot of times it's poured over entrances of doorways and windows, so it's to kind of keep, it's kind of to limit the access to evil spirits as well.
I've seen that, but you never know what, crazy science fiction channel has come up with that, or if it comes from a certain source.
Yeah, nowadays you can hardly tell what actually is real and what actually works and what Hollywood makes up,
Mm-hmm. But a lot of things are imitated in our Catholic rituals, Christian rituals.
Okay. Isabel asks, she's wondering if the ex-boyfriend could have put a curse on her.
Yeah, we believe so. Because you had the feet, the footwear, and then the pictures, and then definitely the underwear. The more personal the item, the stronger the curse. So
a lock of hair.
That's pretty personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay. That's all I see so far. Thank you.
Okay.
I read up that some psychics and some spiritual advisors went to this home, and they were making claims that there were some 200 demons or something in this house. I got to say, even that sounds like it's impossible. What is your take on that?
Well, I don't know if you could count anything like that. I think that's unless they asked for a number and they gave a number, but you're not sure because when you're dealing with demons, they lie and such. And I mean, usually you could tell if there's 0 or 1 or more than one, a couple or several, but as far as when you start getting to the exact numbers, that's hard to, but I would say several, if you could say if there's several there, that could be accurate.
Right. Did you directly talk to any of these psychics?
No, that was brought in when the famous scene, incident at the party, that weekend party on March 10th, where the whole family was in the house and witnessed all kinds of different things. They would never, when they left that night, many of them had headaches, and everyone vowed never to go to that house again. And so they now saw they had to do something. And so since their church wouldn't get involved, the grandmother, Rosa, called her mother, Ruth. And now her mother was kind of elderly and, not able to get around, and, but she had a neighbor in the assisted living place where she was living at who belonged to a church that dealt with deliverance type of ministry. And so she would try to contact her, to contact the neighbor, to see if they would help him out. And what's interesting is when Rosa was trying to call her mother, all kinds of phone anomalies that we may be experiencing here began to happen. And one would be, one could hear one, but not hear the other back. And then they'd call back again, and it'd be the opposite problem, with the one hearing the other, but not the other one being able to hear. And then finally, when they would connect, it would be all filled with static, and sometimes they would hear this very grotesque voice cussing at them and such. And then they would call again, and one time the call number was a whole series of zeros. And then eventually they finally were able to, ask for the number of the church to see if they could send some people over. So I think that Tuesday, that church came over with a clairvoyant and several officials from the church. And the clairvoyant went into the basement and ran out of there and said she can't stay in the house. It's just, I think she said more, it is the basement's filled with demons, so I don't think she gave a number, but maybe she said hundreds of demons or something, so where they got the 200 from.
Or maybe, just the fact that the clairvoyant said that there were multiple demons down there. Maybe the media just came up with a number. I think Latoya, I don't think the media came with a number. Latoya may have said, 200, but I don't think that's what was actually, that I didn't get that report. I heard that it was multiple demons, several demons, so I don't remember having an exact number from what Latoya said, so somehow it got around. Maybe she said hundreds or something. So when you took this case, was this the first time that you performed an exorcism?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I read that somewhere. I just wanted to ask to make sure. Now, when you took the case, I think I read somewhere that you were going to try and disprove that all of this was happening. Because a lot of times, and I've seen this so many times when I go to do a case, someone contacts me. Sometimes some people are just extremely paranoid. Some people just see and hear what they want to see and hear. So I should definitely understand you going in there trying to disprove it. And then
it's a professional skepticism.
Right.
Naturally, you're trying to look for logical explanations and such. And if you can't find a logical explanation, you kind of have to go with, this can't be explained.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What I find very interesting is that the police and child services were actually at least entertaining the idea that there was something paranormal happening in the home. I think it gives this case a lot of credibility.
Yeah, because they also came with a professional skepticism, and in fact, that's even, especially with the psychological ones, including the Child Protective Services, they were kind of claiming that the woman, Latoya, was inducing, because of her religiosity, as demon possession as being the source of problems for their family, and the kids were acting it out, for her to please her and all this kind of stuff. So they had a very, they had a whole theory kind of developed in disproving it, and yet it would be two of their agents that would witness the boy walk up the wall backwards, which with that...
I just can't imagine seeing something like that. In my experience as a paranormal investigator, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen shadow people.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen objects move on their own. I've seen a lot of stuff that would probably scare a lot of people, but to actually see somebody walking up a wall and just full on demonic type activity. I mean, especially for somebody who doesn't necessarily believe in the paranormal, and then all of a sudden they see it. Child services and the police, I have no, the officer that was there, I have no idea if any of them at the time believed at all in the paranormal, or even believed that something, it's up to that point if they believed that there was something paranormal happening in the home.
Mm-hmm.
But when you first realized that all of this was actually going on and you were performing the exorcism, what was going through your mind at the time? I mean, was there any fear? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, in the rite, you are instructed not to give in to fear or any manipulation, because that's what's going to happen. Is the demon will try to stop the exorcism at all costs, and he's going to look for a weakness in you, that be it fear, or you get intrigued in something, or get you off the track, or lose your focus, or start engaging in conversations with them, or whatever works. It will try to find, and you can't do that. You can't stop from what you're doing. You have to keep focused, and no matter what happens, and so that's and because that's where you have command. If it takes command or takes control or can manipulate you, you're not going to get it back, most likely. It'll just keep on. If it knows that you're scared of this, it will just up the ante more and more in that area. And if it doesn't scare you this time, it'll just make it something more that will scare you.
Right. I heard that, some of the people that were possessed, that they were speaking in different languages and tongues. Were you understanding what the demon was saying or anything like that?
Now, in Latoya's case, she never spoke. So that was, in the final exorcism, she was trying to say something, but it seemed to be prevented from saying it. Her mouth was moving in a contorted way, but nothing was coming out. So she never spoke. Her main manifestation was convulsions. But getting with the language, because the third and final exorcism I did was in Latin, and I used the old rite. And the old rite would kind of go back and forth from praises to God to condemnation of the evil one, and back and forth like that. And whenever I was praising God, there was no reaction. But the moment you started condemning the evil one, then she would convulse. and then you go back to praising God, and she would stop. And there's no way, she was Baptist. I don't think she knew a single word of Latin. So to me, that I found that amazing, because it was like almost on cue. And there's just no way. No one, in fact, no one else in the room knew Latin except me. So, so I was the only one really to observe that.
I think Travis has a question or two. Travis?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I do. I have two questions, Father Mike. One of the things that kept popping up in the news stories that I was reading is that this house was being referred to as the portal to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that term came from? Did that come from that
was the items we dug up underneath the. Yeah, because the three police officers and me were doing they were doing the digging. I was just observing, and they were photographing and all that. And I called it, when we discovered those items, we were kind of figuring out why such things would be there, and we were just coming up with a possible theory. We kind of ruled out. There were, we did have the police check to see if there was any missing persons in that area, if there were any murders or things. There was one down the street. So there didn't seem to be anything like that. So we felt this probably was an accidental death. We did the research in the home, was bought by a newly wed couple back in 1926 who lived there their whole life. The woman was the last to die, and the home would get sold after that to a series of owners who never would live in the house and always rent it out to a whole new series of tenants. And so we were kind of thinking, because of the items, the one boy, the youngest boy in the Ammons family, was always talking to a boy around his age, and the boy would always mention that he's talking about what is it like to die. Do you want to know what it's like to be killed? And so we were thinking maybe it was some sort of accidental death of a boy around 5, 6, 7 years old. He may have somehow with that weight, if it was on a drapery cord, maybe he was swinging it around and it conked him on the head, or maybe it wrapped around his neck and he choked him or something like that. And they were trying. This grieving couple was trying to bring their boy back, to communicate with him through spiritualistic means, and they read somewhere how to try to conjure up by burying items surrounding his death. Maybe those are the socks he wore, where he was, and the item that killed him and things like that were all buried there for that purpose. And once she started that, maybe she did the same either for her mother, and so tried to explain the different items we found there. So that's and since the boyfriend also did a curse, it was probably also helped by the fact there was this portal created, by the previous, the original owners of the home. So it's kind of a perfect storm of paranormal, possibilities.
No, absolutely. My second question is, the last time that you interacted with Latoya's family was how long ago?
I did the final exorcism on June 29th of 2012. We were going to set up another one, a fourth one, mainly because she never spoke, and we knew the kids were speaking these satanic chants and verses and rhymes and such. So we figured that she'd probably have to speak. That one would have to manifest at some point, and so we were going to set up. It was 4th of July. We were seeing what everyone's schedule was, or that week weekend, but we never got the call back. And the next time I would receive a call from her was it was the fall. She was coming up into the area for her court case to get her kids back, and so it was September or October. And she asked me for a rosary, and I said I would give, I could get one to her. And but at the time she said she would come to pick it up, and I was going to ask her all how things were at that time, but she never showed up. And so I never never heard anything until I read the newspaper report.
Okay. So from your knowledge, has there been any type of residual demonic oppression that the family has experienced?
No, it seemed like later talking. Well, I talked to the reporter because I was kind of curious when the kids stopped having any manifestations, and she couldn't give me a date from her because she had all kinds of documents, but she said there was no dates on any of those documents. They would just mention in the middle of their time there that the kids just stopped doing that, and so it seemed like from their psychological perspective that things were just normalizing in the family dynamics that would lead to the kids being returned to the family. But I was always curious if maybe there are, they're probably sealed confidential things, but,
right.
Regular reports that are dated, I would just like to know, what was the last date of, any manifestation, of that sort from a child, in conjunction with my exorcisms. But
right.
I don't know if I would ever find that out.
Yeah, that was kind of what was my curiosity was, had anything transpired demonically at all since the last exorcism? Yeah,
I know that it stopped in the middle of their time there, which is about when the last exorcism was, because they were gone from April 20th to early November, and my last exorcism was June 29th, so
right.
70 days later in those 7 months.
So I know you've been to the house a few times since all of this happened. Of course, you've done a little bit of work with Zach, but I was just wondering, since you've been there, have you seen a lot of paranormal activity in the house?
I only went one time, and that was last night. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it was quite an eventful night that Zach had me sign a confidential, non-disclosure agreement.
Oh, right.
It turned out to be a lot more things that all of us expected, so we're not quite sure what to do with all that. But there was a lot there, but right at this moment we can't disclose it.
Right, okay.
This is Seth Michael. I have a couple of questions, actually from the chat room.
Okay.
As Isabel asked earlier, do you know how old the house is? What year it was built?
It was built in 1926, so it's 90 years, almost approaching 90 years.
Okay. My question to go along with that, and I apologize if you said this already, but did anyone before this have activity?
Yeah, it doesn't. Now, Zach has been tracking. He did track down an owner in the 90s, but I think that's also sealed for his documentary. So but he did tell me that there was something there, and he also said she did come over to the house and something happened to her that made her run out. I'll leave it at that for now. So it was because there was still, for me, I knew that the portal wasn't totally sealed, and so I wanted to reseal it and that's what I attempted to do last night, which I think I did. But that was last night, so I'm not sure if Zach's doing another investigation tonight. He's getting ready to go back to Las Vegas and such too, so he's kind of wrapping up there.
Right.
So we'll have to see, but it definitely wasn't sealed last night. So we'll have to, and I think he didn't really want it sealed either. But we got into a little bit of difficulty there. But it was resolved to seal it.
Okay.
To try to seal it.
When I was just looking kind of like remotely, I wasn't feeling anything in there now. Like, it's different. So, I don't know, but because Zach is doing what he does, he might want to have that changed. But, I do have another question.
We kind of got into it. There was a lot of dynamics also among the people there. So it was really quite I think it's going to appear somewhere. I'm not sure if it'll be in this documentary, but I'm sure what happened last night is going to. But we're not quite sure what to do with it yet. But there was a lot of interesting dynamics happening at all levels. So
I've got another question. Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I really can't talk about it. I'm probably getting too much.
Well, it's quite all right.
Let's quickly change the subject. Dave in the chat room, he asked a question. Could these actually be spirits with evil intentions, having learned how to manipulate the surrounding energy, severely affected people's energy rather than a demon defined by religion? Lower vibrational spirits will attract like energies. I know it was a long one.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a demon does. I mean, a demon is a fallen angel. An angel knows how, these things work, so they understand, they have a knowledge of, electromagnetic, functionings, that's no big deal for them. And they know how to work it and use it and such, and able to, and they're intelligent, super intelligent, and they can network and create all kinds of things, that try to manipulate a situation. So I think I don't know. I think what one is describing, I don't know why they would have a problem with it. Sometimes when you hear demons, I don't know if you have an image of, a red, tailed, pointed tailed with hoof prints and pitchforks and all this kind of stuff. But no, they are fallen angels that became grotesque because they didn't like to do things God's way, and thus that kind of makes them grotesque. But they still have that intelligence, and now they're working against God instead of with Him as He would desire.
Could they also be referred to as interdimensional beings?
A lot of as far as that, or a lot of extraterrestrial type of things. They are extraterrestrial, so to speak. So so a lot of phenomena. That in the UFO world or whatever of lights and energies and things, could also be explained that way.
Okay. Thank you. Let Justin. I know he's got a lot of questions.
Oh, so now you're throwing me under the bus. I see how.
No, I'm not. I just put in my little chance there.
So, do you see yourself doing a lot more of cases, a lot of other paranormal cases now, since all this has been brought into, the media's high and people are starting to contact you, or are you wanting to go?
I have received several contacts, and in fact, all over the country. Now, I can't really go out of my area. I am pretty much confined to the Diocese of Gary, but so I will refer them to their local, the local diocese in their area to deal with it. But a lot of things can be dealt with before you get to an exorcism. So I'm kind of having them test this out or try this or see if this works and things like that before they go and contact that particular diocese. So I've been, and so far I haven't received a call back yet that it didn't work. But there's some things that I say, if it doesn't work, give me a call back in a month or so, and sometimes it takes. You have to try things out, see if it eventually works.
Right. I think a lot of it, when someone's dealing with a haunting or some kind of demonic attack or possible demonic attack, I think it all starts out with counseling and calming them down, because fear just kind of feeds whatever if there's something there truly there. Fear always they feed on that and makes them stronger, makes you weaker, and
But also, I'm seeing a lot of cursing, a lot of curses. That's kind of, and kind of helping them with, see if, because a lot of it is kind of tied to people, they kind of suspected were bizarre, and and they somehow got it, you invited them into their home, and were they in a strange? I mean, you kind of were they? In a strange area in your house or something like that, and why so a lot of it is kind of seeing if they are taking anything or putting anything there, and so it's kind of helping them to try to, if you could find the item that's planted, or maybe pursue. Sometimes if they take something, it's a lot harder, because how do you get that back? But so it's a lot of things like that.
Right. Now, there are a lot of different types of paranormal groups out there. Some do a lot of investigations in residential homes. My team does a lot of residential. People contact us, asking us for help, and looking for proof that they're not crazy, and for us to give them a little bit of advice on how to, take control of their home again and such. But there are other paranormal groups that'll go to public locations that are haunted, like old buildings and old, like haunted roads and such. What are your views on people doing these public investigations? Does it seem like to you that they're just in it for thrills, or do you think that it could actually be just looking for answers? What are your views on public investigations?
Yeah, most of it, things are ghosts, and I always would like to try to, being a priest, I want to save people, including the ghosts themselves. That, to me, it's a sad thing. They're going nowhere, and which kind of means they're still in the same hellish situation they were in their life, and whatever kind of led to the last moment of their life is still continuing, and that could continue for all eternity. And so it's, I'm looking for them to, even though, yes, they will have to go into the light where they will be judged, but God is merciful. He'll help to move them along, so whatever issues they have failed to deal with, all these years, they start dealing with them and, correcting them and, moving on so that they could be what God wanted them to be, So I kind of look at it in that regard.
Right. I really like that. You're wanting to help both the living and the spirits as well. Seth, he's actually a psychic medium, spiritual advisor, and he's done cases. And what Seth likes to do is he likes to try to help the spirits cross over. And he'll tell you in a lot of cases that a lot of spirits don't even realize they're dead or they're in denial or stuff like that. But
and
that's
sometimes they don't even. Sometimes they're not ready, though, I've found. Because it's all choice and free will, too. So it's just a reminder.
Yeah, it's free will. It's free will, and it's also a fear, and obviously they're there because there's a lack of faith and fear of God, and and fear of that yes, God will judge them, but it doesn't necessarily mean He will condemn them.
Sometimes, Father, I hear them say that they're afraid of going to hell. Yeah.
And really, they're kind of in it. That is hell. It's separated from God. It's comforting because it's their home or whatever, but it really is hell. I mean, it's they're living the very, the last day of their life that was pretty horrible. So nothing's going to get any better, and it could be an eternal thing where eventually even that home is taken away from them. So it's best they move on. They move to their what is truly going to be their home is with God, and with and especially if you have whole family member, several family members. That are haunting. Now, that's really difficult because they do have to kind of go on their own, and they don't kind of go together into the light, and so they have to leave supposedly loved ones behind.
I am glad to hear that
you're
open-minded.
The same as purgatory?
I'm sorry, I heard two people talking.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, I was curious if you think that's the same as purgatory.
Yeah, I would say going into the light is going into God's judgment, which He usually deals with the most difficult things, the obvious things you have to deal with first, and once you can get over the tough things, then the rest becomes easier through time, and so it is a purgative. It's taking away all those things that are keeping them from God, seeing Him face to face. They all come to be corrected, and we're purified, and we're the way God wanted us to be when He created us, and once we see Him face to face, there's nothing more that needs to be done to. We're the way God wanted us to be from the very beginning.
Very cool.
I have a couple questions, actually. Do you know any clergy that does consider themselves psychic medium?
That considers themselves a psychic medium?
Yeah.
I'm not very sensitive at all. So that way, I have a belief in in a theological understanding of how this all kind of fits together. But as far as me personally experiencing and seeing ghosts and things, I really don't. I don't have that gift.
My other question. Go ahead.
And I don't know of any, at least of my fellow priests, I don't know of anyone that's like that either.
Yeah, I was just curious. I have met some people before that believe that there is no other explanation to paranormal except for demons. They're not open to the earthbound spirits or people like you were just saying that sometimes, they don't know to go right away or whatever the reason is. So I really like that you're so open-minded.
Oh, okay.
And do consider other things.
Mm-hmm. No, I believe when people, it's not easy for people to talk about these things. So that's kind of a sign because they usually come hemming and hawing and to you, and so they're not. They're not going to make that stuff up, and so and obviously they're coming to you. They need some sort of help. So I'm very I whatever people say, I tend to believe what they that this is what they're experiencing, and they don't understand it. So I definitely don't. Consider them loony. No, I consider them actually kind of courageous to actually start talking about what they're dealing with.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
and
many
is this the
people.
most hardcore you ever went through that you've encountered?
Oh, especially last night.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Then the exorcism itself. So it's we'll talk about it. I'll be I'm actually processing it myself. So
Wow.
You mentioned last night, man. I cannot wait to see this footage. It's going to be amazing.
Wow.
Man, you're making it sound like you almost got into a fist fight with it or something.
Yeah.
No, it was very. I mean, the subtlety of it. It's probably everyone's kind of thinking Hollywood, but it was very. They're very intriguing. The whole dynamics of I'm actually kind of intrigued to see how it will come all out on tape, and I think just the analysis of what happened, even Zach and all his experience. I think that things we're seeing that I don't think people dealing with this for a long time were seeing things that they never saw before, or so it'd be.
Right.
It'll be very interesting, but I think we're all processing it right now. So.
Right.
Is this the first time you met Zach?
Zach Bagans, yeah.
Yeah, is it the first time you met him?
Oh, have I read the book?
No, have you met Zach before?
Oh no, yeah, I'm working with him. So yeah, we worked all this past week.
Oh, okay.
Filming and such, yeah.
Now, I know you really can't talk about specifics as to what you guys were filming, but what was it like working with Zach? That's got to be the first time you worked with an actual paranormal investigator. What was that like?
We've been working very well, and but we did. It was playing both of us against. Kind of have to. Yesterday, it was working again. Working with both of us, kind of against. To actually stop it, I think. So to stop the project, it almost succeeded. So it was, and even we're pretty two determined people. So it was interesting, the manipulation and the dynamics that were occurring. It's I can't probably say too much, but it was interesting.
But as far as like how they investigate and such, what did you think about the actual investigation process?
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm waiting to. I hope Zach follows through, because there's a lot of unanswered things. I would like to know. He actually, I don't know if this is breaking the agreement. He did, I don't think it's breaking. I think the agreement is mainly, the non-disclosures yet last night. But he also has the address of the boyfriend, and he was going to deal with that. So, though they're thinking about, I guess he's. After last night, he may want to be cautious too, but he does.
Right. Well, it makes sense when you're dealing with a location. You're going to want to follow up with as many leads as possible. Talk to everybody that was involved in the case, everybody that lived in the home, how long was the home there.
Yeah. That's
just basic knowledge of the investigation process. So I don't think you're going to get that, as long as you're not talking about exactly what happened during
that's probably assumed, yeah, because he was very interested in getting He is an investigator. He's more so now than maybe before in his early shows. He's probably more experiential. He has matured a lot, especially as he's getting into much more, moving from ghostly to demonic. Especially, he's kind of maturing more into, on investigations and also not being too open, knowing the warning signs, not in, especially when you're dealing with demons, the number one rule, you can't, all they need is an invitation, and they'll take it. And once they're the guest that doesn't want to leave, so it's,
Right. Now, I know that you, I read on the media that there was a possible, like a possible movie deal or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is Zach involved with that as well, or is this separate from his documentary?
That's a separate deal from the documentary, but all the lawyers are carving all that out.
Good.
Right.
And there's. It does seem. I don't think I'm getting too ahead, but it does seem Sony Pictures seems to be the most interested in taking it on. They did Exorcism of Emily Rose, and they're talking. We're all kind of talking with Tony, who did The Conjuring, and so it seems like it's kind of going that direction. But there is, there's a lot of carving out on, what's going to be done in what production type of thing. So.
Okay. All right. So that's got to be real exciting for you. Now, does that mean that you're going to be a part of the movie, or you're going to be a part of
that was probably one of the things that was kind of worked out is Zach would have access to the real house, to the real exorcist. The movie would be actors on a sound stage, so with a script and all that. So it's and so there will be no, live interviews with me in the movie, so that will be all confined to the documentary. So
if you could pick any actor, who would you have play you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Keep it with your choice.
No, I was thinking about it. I think closest to my personality, though he probably could play anyone, is Tom Hanks, because he seems to kind of be that professor in the Da Vinci Code. It seems to be kind of my personality type. Is that
he's real versatile.
Yeah, and he's versatile, and he tries to, like with the Captain Phillips, he really tries to capture the person's personality. So I think he would do the best job.
I agree. I think that'd be a really good fit. They better give him a call for sure.
Dave just asked another question. Invitation, questioning. He goes, where do spirit guides come into play? Do you
spirit guide
work? Yeah, spirit guides.
Okay.
I would think angels.
Yeah, in the Catholic Church, we believe in guardian angels, and so and Jesus said that in the Gospel that when he referred to kind of the most insignificant people in Jesus' time were children, and he says their children always behold my heavenly Father's face. So that's where we get the idea that God assigns a guardian angel to every human person, and that no matter what if you're born into this world, God assigns a guardian angel who will always let you know of God's way. Of course, we always have our ways, and then we also know we're tempted, and free to be tempted. If Jesus was tempted, so every one of us could be tempted. So actually the whole demonic world is, God allows us to be tempted by them, So we do have, if you kind of look into one's spiritual life. All this is going on in our mind, so to affect the will. And so you may kind of know what you like to do, and God always will have what's the right thing to do there amidst those things. And then the demonic world tempting us to do something that's not what God wants us to do. And so we could kind of, if we kind of look at what's going on in our minds, we could kind of see those things that come from us, those things that we ought to do, and then those things that are trying to get us away from doing what we ought to do. And that's all kind of going on in our mind to affect our will.
When you're doing the exorcism and you're feeling it's working, what do you think is going on the other side in that realm? Or like, did Archangel Michael, does he come and take them out? Or how are they destroyed?
Actually, yeah, the way the exorcism works, it's really pushing buttons. You're trying, it's probably, if you want to drive someone away from, if you want to drive someone away from you who doesn't want to leave you, you just look for what they can't stand and you just bring it up over and over. And so you just drive, so it's driving someone crazy, So, I mean, we push people's buttons, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to find what's the weakness of the demon, what can't he stand, what bothers him the most. And once you find it, then you just use it over and over till they can't stand to be around it anymore and they leave. So that's basically, crudely, how it works.
Or you annoy them until they rip your head off, whichever comes first.
But
they also are doing the same thing to you, so they also are trying to manipulate you in the same way, finding your buttons so that you would stop. So it's quite a game there.
Mm-hmm. How do we know they would go to another house? How do we know they're not in that house and going to the neighbors?
Yeah. Now, once they are driven away, they're not going to be invited back naturally, so they have to find another way to, that's very important for them because they like to control people, because they really can't do anything on their own unless the people are willing to listen to them to do their stuff, because they really are kind of, that's a big limitation to them. And so they can only do what, someone else, they can only accomplish what they could suggest someone else do. And so they basically look for people willing to, do their stuff. And, so they kind of have to entice them with curiosity in the beginning and, do very, and then keep on upping the ante. How much more will they be willing to do as it goes along? And so that's kind of how evil works in all things. Now, for an exorcism, it only the solution is only if that invitation was brought in by some sort of ritual, some sort of satanic, magic art, something that's kind of ritualistic. Then you need a ritual to undo it. For other evils, the solution again is kind of what brings it in. So if it's addiction, substance, or sexual addiction, the solution is usually going back to what kind of got this thing all started to kind of unravel it, undo it, and or gambling, So what's the weakness that's kind of being manipulated? How do you come to counteract it? And so with the help of God and His grace, especially people who've been in those situations before, they kind of show us the way out of those things. Where something takes such a hold over our will that we could eventually take command again and overcome it. So really all evil kind of works the same way. It's just that exorcisms only work for things that came in and took over ritualistically. And you need a ritual to undo it.
Mm-hmm. We have 10 minutes left on the clock. Travis has one final question, but what we can do, if we still want to talk, we can just end it for the listeners, and they can come back for bonus material because we got more time after if we decide you want to talk more.
Okay.
So
sure. If
okay,
there's more
Travis,
questions.
give me the floor.
Again, Father Mike, thank you so much for being part of the program tonight. It's been very enlightening to hear your perspectives on this particular incident. My question is very quickly this: anyone who knows me and they follow my Facebook page and things like that, they know one of my favorite movies is The Exorcist. Not only for the storyline, but I actually enjoy working to the music that plays while the movie is going. My question to you is this: performing a real life exorcism, how close is it to the way that Hollywood portrays it in films?
Yeah, that's way over the top. Especially a head spinning around. It has to be within reason. Realm of possibilities. Yeah. So you're not going to snap a person's head off. So that's ridiculous. But there is the vomiting, the very grotesque things of urination and defecation and vomiting and it smells and things that are repulsive. The language, if they do speak, it's blasphemous. It's sacrilegious. It's shocking. Also manipulation, especially when you're getting into where it's trying to discover weaknesses, past unconfessed sins, or secrets and things, that it could kind of manipulate and play games on and such. So there's all, it will especially likes to use those type of things, playing people against each other and such. And
what about for The Exorcist? How strenuous is an exorcism on the individual performing it?
Actually, you kind of, when you're going through it, I think you do have the grace of God that helps you, because you don't. But once you're done with it, you are exhausted. But I think as you're doing it, you're focused. It seems like you got, God's help. Help is there, and
then
probably
they're giving you a little extra strength.
Giving you that strength, yeah.
Another thing.
No, I was just going to say thank you for your candid answers with us tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, and I hope to get to talk with you again.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Now, since you've done since you did this case and you've been to the house, have you noticed any activity surrounding you or anything like that? Whatever's in the house or the demonic, has it tried messing with you personally since then or anything like that?
There's one thing. It's probably a little bit long to get into. I don't know if our time would run out, but it was just before the second exorcism. I remember her mentioning that she had a possible name, and that's a key thing. If you have the name, it's like you got it cornered, you got the spotlight on it, it doesn't like it, and you just keep on using its name with the condemnation, just can't stand it, and that usually drives it away. And she was kind of, when her church went and helped her out, she went to her friend's house, and they got on the computer, and she Googled, getting rid of demons. And on the website she was at, it had a whole list of demons with their names and their characteristics listed. And so she was kind of reading through them all, and she noticed one that kind of looked very close to her old situation, attacking kids and what they would do. And so she went to look at it, and the name, and the computer clicked off. And so she had to restart it and, then reboot it and get back on the, internet and find the website and the web page, and again went down the list. And the second time she went and looked, found the characteristics, looked at the name, it went off again. And this time her friend says, you're not putting your demons in my computer, and it's time for you to go, and that's the end of this. And in fact, that friend had a headache for like 2 weeks, and in fact wouldn't even, at least during the time of the exorcism, wouldn't have anything to do with her. So I don't know if they got back together after that, but and so I was willing to go ahead and print out the list of names and see if she could point it out to me, and I would use it for that exorcism. And so I did that on my day off. Thursday was my day off. Friday I was going to do the exorcism, and pretty much my Fridays are pretty well stacked up. So it seemed like just before I left, what I usually like to do is go on a bike ride. And so I decided to print out the names just before the bike ride. It took me it was kind of giving me a lot of trouble in printing them out. I had to try all kinds of little tricks, but I finally got it to print out. And then I left for my bike ride, and a lot of strange things began to happen. The first thing was just going through the neighborhood. I was coming across people in their yards, they weren't parishioners, but they seemed to be very happy and friendly, very perky, waving at me and say, how's it going, and what a beautiful day it is, just real joyful and happy, and so I was kind of seeing that as being a little bit strange. And then I got onto the bike path, and it seemed like everyone that I was passing would be making some sort of acknowledgement, waving at me, saluting me, giving the thumbs up, how's it going, or whatever way they kind of greet me. And it didn't seem like anyone would, usually maybe 1 out of 5 or 10 would greet you, and the rest just kind of go by. But here was everyone, and I was almost making a point. Is anyone going to ignore me? It seemed like everyone was somehow acknowledging. And then I got to the end of the bike path in Hobart, and you kind of go through the town to the next bike path. And it empties out into this one very quiet street. Hardly ever see anyone go on it. So I just pulled out.
Father, one second. We just want to say goodbye to our audience right now. Father, we can keep talking, and they can get it later on the recorded version. We just want to say goodbye to the live listeners. Thank you, everyone, for chatting with us and for being there. This has been amazing. We thank publicly you for being on here, Father Michael, and all the... We got all the hosts. So, listeners, please check out the recorded version, the same link that you found this, and you'll hear more. Okay, we can keep on going. Sorry to interrupt.
We keep on going. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I pulled off onto this very, quiet street and without looking, and this car comes like speeding around the bend, around the corner, and slams on their brakes right before me. And I go, and so now I'm saying, okay, you got to be careful. You do know the name, and it's not going to like it. So now when I get onto the next path, now the reactions of the people are much different. And in fact, I'm not even sure, anyone who's now looking at me has this very puzzled look, like, what is riding by? I mean, it's really like they're staring, and trying to figure out what are they seeing? And I'm looking at them, just wondering, what in the world are they looking at? What are they seeing? And the only people not with that reaction are just the usual ones that ignore you. But if anyone just looks up, all of a sudden they're doing a double take, or with this puzzled look, and and just staring, and I was actually making, is anyone going to look at me normal? And I don't recall, no more greetings, definitely, and such. So I get to the very end, and of the path in Chesterton, and I turn around and go back through the gate, and all of a sudden I'm thrown down from my bike to the side of the path, Now, luckily, I went into the grass. You know, I think it would have wanted me to be sprawling on the pavement, but I felt like somewhat protected. You know, that luckily, I mean, I didn't go down. You know, I went into the grass here, just had a little cut, and I was kind of wondering how did I, what happened to me, and then I looked at my bicycle seat, and it was skewed like 45 degrees, and I tried to twist it back, and it wouldn't move, and the one possible thing that could have done that is if I hit the post, but I was sitting on the seat, so if for it to get there, I would really be messed up, so. And I didn't think I, would hit the post there. So I went to try to get my seat back so I could ride it, and I had to use almost all my force to pound that seat back into getting it straight, and a little bit, so I could finally ride it. And that was, I was pretty much messing with my mind, but also I kind of knew the rules, if you, because you could kind of think, should I call someone to pick me up, or walk my bike back, or whatever? And and it's like, no, you have to. You can't let the demons win. You can't let the terrorists win, type of thing. So you got to go with it. You were protected, not you weren't hurt. It did something.
Right.
And so I'm having this mental war, kind of similar, maybe what I was going through last night too. And then
it kind of felt like a bully was messing with you, something like that. Like it was the demonic. It pushed you, and it was just trying to scare you or show you that it was going to mess with you, and then you just kind of shook it off.
Yeah, but also I felt protected too. So in other words, there's someone wanting to mess with you, but it also is not doing exactly what it probably would have liked to do, because I am sure, it would want me more messed up than just, lying in the grass there. So it's kind of feeling, both of that. And so I went about a mile or two, and you kind of come to this series of S-curves. And I was coming around the bend, there was this rider in my lane, and he was going as fast as he can. He had all the get-up, of the next Lance Armstrong with the helmet and the pants and the shirt and all that.
Right.
And he was just pedaling as fast as he possibly could. I mean, he was just racing and looking down and coming straight toward me around the bend. And I was wondering, okay, do I get out of his way, or if I move, he's going to come in my lane? And it was getting almost, do I jump off the bike? And he eventually just looked up and scooted out of my way, but we almost had a head-on collision. And I go, man, that's like almost unheard of on a bike. Because it's unbelievable. So, but again, he looked up and got out of the way. So I went another mile or two, and you come to this gate, and there was two mothers towing their little babies in these little bike trailers. And I would see one all the time, but to see two together, that was kind of rare. And then one pulled up through the gate and was waiting on one side, and the other one pulled up, and they're waiting for a car to pass on the other side. And I pulled in right behind them, and to the one side was a ditch, and so I couldn't. So I kind of went behind them to the middle there, and you couldn't quite. There's not enough room to go between them, and so I went to the far end, and there was another ditch, but there's just a little bit more room. So I kind of was wobbling, and saying, "Don't let me fall into their babies, or don't throw me into those babies." That's quite a scene, but eventually the car passed, and then I crossed the street, and I saw another bike waiting, and I heard behind me someone say, "I'm sorry." And I think the guy that was crossing the street had to stop because he had nowhere to go, and he had to let one of the ladies kind of get across the street, and it's kind of a busy street, so I think that's what that was about. And then I go another mile or two, and and there's this mother with her little boy pulling a wagon, and they're going my way, but in the other lane. And I'm about ready to pass them, and for some reason the boy decides to just dart practically in front of me. Luckily, the mother just as quickly stopped him. But if the mother didn't stop him and he just went straight ahead, next I would have avoided the boy, but I would have to go flying over that wagon. But luckily that was avoided again, and now I'm going near Portage Willow Creek Road. There's this tunnel, a bike tunnel underneath that street. And there's the grade school, Catholic grade school to the one side. There's also kitty corner is a daycare center. And so I'm going down into this dark tunnel, and all of a sudden I hear, "Get to the wall!" And as my eyes adjust, I see about 20 kids, little, about kindergarten age or first graders or preschool, around that age. All of a sudden, all of them luckily go to that side of the wall where the teacher is at, and so I go into the other lane to, avoid them all, and luckily they're not going one to one wall. They're weaving and flopping, and whatever disaster could have happened there, and then I'm thinking as I'm going past them, please don't have another bike come down here, at the end here, and I don't know where we're going to all fit, at this little space here. So, and I get past that, and I go, man, was that dangerous? And why would you bring 20 kids into a bike tunnel? But after that, I think my head was just spinning. I don't even remember seeing another person the rest of the way. That was.
So basically, that was like none of your other bike rides were that. Never
came in close to anything like that. Right. Not even one incident close.
It was like you're on this big journey on this bike ride. Something's trying to mess with you. Something's trying to mess with you, and you're being protected, and all these good things are happening, all these bad things are trying to happen, and they're not quite happening. That's pretty much what I'm picking up from that.
Yeah. And, my head was swirling.
You could have a movie just about your bike ride.
That's why I told that to the guy in Sony Pictures. He just loved it. He just wanted the movie just for that scene. So there's so much they could do with that. I said, yeah, you could be creative with that one.
Man, I got to tell you, I have not ridden a bike in probably about 10 years. And you know what? Just listening to your story, I really miss. I mean, other than your crazy adventure, I kind of miss riding a bike.
More exciting than you thought.
Yeah. I think I'm about spent as well. But Reverend, I'm so happy that I got in touch with you. And I'm so glad that you agreed to come on to our show. It's been very very enlightening, and from reading all of the stories online and everything, it's just so much better to hear from somebody that was actually there, so you can differentiate between what might be made up from the reports from reporters and the news. And from what actually happened.
I'm sorry, I was asking you questions and it was on mute. So I'm not.
What you got, Seth?
Oh, I thought I was in the middle of something. Oh, I just got a million questions, but I'm just going to narrow it down. So, I was seeing that it's human nature, too. It seems to embellish when there's something that fantastical happening, that's huge. For things to get added on. That was just a comment I had.
You mean about the bike ride?
No. I just meant because you were talking about the truth versus what people of the stories. So it's real cool to hear Father's perspective, which is probably the more we're going to get more to the truth that way.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Actually, was the big thing about the movie, and in the documentary, that as it turned out, why I was willing to get so involved in the way these things fell in place so quickly was they really wanted just the truth of it, which and unlike all these other exorcist movies, really it is Hollywoodized and sensationalized, and even if it's kind of based on a true story, they have to change the thing so much that for whatever reason that it loses it. And here, as I said, I think the story is just good as it is. You don't really need to embellish it. And
you're the person to say that. You are the second person to say that. We had Andrea Perrin on the show.
Yeah.
And The Conjuring was based, off of her life, and she said that they all went in and told their story, and then they started writing the script, and they came back to her and said, you know what, we can't put all this in here. Not everybody's, nobody's going to believe all of this. We're actually going to have to pull this movie down. And so that's what they did. But and she said, that there were a lot of stuff that was put into that movie that was not fact, but there were factual events that took place in that movie. But as far as the movie on your story, I'm hoping, and I'm sure you are too, that they're going to try to keep as much of the fake Hollywood stuff out, and just stick with the facts.
Yeah, no, that's kind of was. Tony was in selling it to Sony. I have actually final approval of the script. It's being written in the contracts, and that whoever takes it on has to be faithful to the script. So, it seems to, and a lot of times you can't do it for most exorcist movies because, especially like if the demon is talking, you're talking about very personal things about people that bother them, and and so you really can't get into use that kind of stuff. Well, in my case, there is no. Actually, the exorcism part's probably the more boring part of the movie. It's not really because basically all that happens is convulsions. And it's not so all the usual things that you can't really put in, be real about, you don't have to worry about, because I don't think there's nothing.
The demon's actual name. Now, that's not something
that can't be revealed. That's one of the rules.
Right. Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah. So that can't be real, and actually the kids' names of the children have to be changed. So outside of that, it seems like almost nothing else kind of counters church laws and laws of confidentiality and things like that. And so
basically, basically everything's going to fall into basically the truth of the real events that took place. And I'm so glad that you have final approval over the script, because then that means if you see something that just is just totally out of this world, that isn't true, then you can obviously voice, that needs to be changed or should be changed.
My girlfriend has a concern. She wrote to ask you about, don't you think movies like this, say Amityville 2, anything like that, is creating more fear, and don't the negative entities feed on fear? So wouldn't that kind of work against?
I'm not sure. It really isn't necessarily that scary. But it is intriguing. I mean, it is, intriguing that there is this reality that does exist. And I think, sometimes we do maybe give demons more, there is a limit to them. Like, they can't directly kill you. So they like to think they can, and they scare you into thinking they can, but they can't directly kill. Now they could suggest to someone to, take that knife and stab, or or
right.
you take your life, but they can't directly. Even if you always notice, even when they're throwing things at you or not, or whatever, they could hurt you, but they won't. They can't kill you. So, but they can. You can get hurt by these things. And the only thing is that, I guess, you do also have to be careful. Like I mentioned, when performing the exorcism, you want to not do something over and over that's not affecting the demon. But it's affecting the person, and that's like if it's consistent. Then you don't want to do something where it's consistent, because eventually the person's going to get hurt. But if you are, aggravating or abating it, it's bothering the demon, and that's what drives it away. So it's just common precautions like that.
Because she was mentioning also during the filming of some of the movies, like The Exorcist, it was said that some not so good things happened during the filming even. Does that anything of a concern?
Well, I will say, what happened last night is that was going to try to stop the movie, stop the documentary. So I have a feeling, we're going to have to be prepared that this is not the only attempt to stop this from going forward. So
you'll be there during the filming of the movie?
Not for the movie, probably. Tony will. I think we have a good, because I know Sony Pictures was he and Tony and Sony Pictures, Eric Paquette. They were both very, interested in getting my story. So I think they're going to work together, and they, because he wanted to do the same thing Tony did. So they wanted to do the truth and such. So I don't think I'm going to have a big problem with that. They both see the story's good as it is, and
what I'm thinking is like thought intent. And if they are focusing on something that severe, couldn't it open its own portal? Even just play acting?
No, I don't. I would, if they wanted to do the part, because the second exorcism, I do use the demon's name over and over. So somehow we would have to kind of work that that's not exposed without sounding, without bleeping, or I'm not sure. So there has to be a creative way to kind of do that. But
here's an interesting twist, and I think that it would be good for the movie, and it would be good for it not getting the demon's name out. I think it would be a good idea that when in the movie, when they portray, the exorcism, and you're saying the demon's name, I think whenever you say the name, just mute it, because it's going to keep it'll be good for the movie, because a lot of people think, well, what could the demon's name be, or this or that, and plus it's going to help not get the demon's name out there. It leaves kind of that mystery for the whole movie effect, and it also keeps the information from getting out there. That's just, if it were me, it would be something that I would suggest. But
I think that's one thing we kind of have to work on, without creating too much curiosity on it, or how do we kind of do that point? That probably be in the script as well. So how to, we're cutting off, you could say certain things, and and we're always, kind of cutting to a different point in the right, or whatever. And I'm not sure if we have to go through, with the name, just
right.
it's kind of clear we have the name, and I'm going to use it, and I guess is your name, and then we break off, and she goes starts convulsing,
right.
So I think it could suggest, that because they know I have the name with the
right.
She's pointing it out on my printout and such. So
how did you know which one it was? How did you get a name?
No, actually, this was before, because it won't usually work, mainly because this was at a time Latoya was looking at before I got involved. This is way a couple of months before, and she's, her church won't help her, and so and the other it's before the other church got involved, so she's just looking how to get rid of the demons on her own, and so she just went to a friend's computer and asked her to help her. She just Googled how to get rid of demons type of thing. So.
Oh my word!
They got everything on the internet these days. How to make a cake, how to write a line, how to get rid of demons.
I hate to be mean, but that's like a natural selection going on there.
I want to know how did they get to know all the names of them and archangels, and how do they know?
Yeah, there's a long history. Basically, the rite of exorcism is through the centuries everything that seemed to work. If it works, it gets kind of included in the ritual. So a lot of trial and error and such. A lot of the names are pagan gods and goddesses, and all these things are creations of the demons themselves. All these idols and foreign gods, they all like to be worshipped, and so they create their own, their own fan club, so to speak, their own, religion.
I'm trying to think. So Buddhists, because I was raised Catholic, I pretty much understand it, but I'm confused because
they're like the Hindu, all those, they got, especially all these polytheistic types of religions and gods, and all those are all names, so they all have a lot of those all those Indian Hindu names, and so they all are basically demons who like to be worshipped.
Right.
But I haven't heard it that way.
Basically, they're trying to get you to worship a false god, which would be
it's a false god. They're all false gods, and and they devised, they convinced a group of people, to, that they could do this or they could do that.
Yep, and they can't do anything except just sway you from your beliefs and sway you of your sanity and such. So.
Make you doubt yourself, and then just take you down the worst road to the snowballs from there.
I know our time is running out again, but I just wanted to ask too. Do all the priests know? Do they all have to do this, or just volunteer and then there's extra schooling?
A special
it's usually kind of way it probably works is just the way it in my case, because this was the only one done in our diocese. They got the bishop's permission, and you just happen to be the policeman on the scene type of thing. And if you don't have any, you don't have anyone to defer it to, and you're the guy. So any priest could do it, but not everyone, really wants to do it. So you're the guy on the scene, so it's your baby.
Right.
and then once you're there, then you're referred to. He did one, so we ask him to do it. Though you could have other priests do it, but most likely they hand it off. So he didn't want. He could take care of that one.
Not everybody wants to go up against a demon or try to even mess with it. So I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, so you might be like the curly with the hammer. Give me a hammer, give me a hammer.
I like that attitude, yeah.
Oh.
Yep, my head flashed to the Three Stooges all over the place.
Oh, it's like a bunch of priests are standing in the line, and somebody else, right, look, do this one, and everybody steps back, and then you're the one.
I'm the one there, holding the hammer.
How many priests does it take to screw in a light bulb? I'm just kidding a bit there. There's a lot of jokes with priests and the rabbi in the bar.
Sounds like
I can't remember any of the punchlines, but I remember the first part. I'm so glad you came on, and yeah, this has been awesome.
Yeah, I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed doing this broadcast and having you on. Other than the glitches that we've had tonight, this is usually how we are. We're really laid back, and usually, like we're not the type of people that are just going to keep drilling questions to you know. We're not like the tabloid, you know. We're not, you know, like that.
We gave him pretty many questions.
No, good questions.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure there were some there were a few questions that you had to steer around, but for the most part, I think everything was done, you know, pretty well and everything. So
yeah.
So thank you.
Well, this is a late night for you.
What time is it? Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, we've been on quite a bit. Okay.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Everybody's pretty slap happy right now, so.
Yeah. We'll talk about this topic can do that to you after a while. This is a heavy topic.
Sure. Well, I think we can. I can already tell everybody's pretty tired, so
okay. I
think we're going to wrap it up. But
okay, good.
Reverend, you're welcome on the show at any time. And
okay,
again,
sure, thank you.
If you're ever willing or wanting to go along with my team on any investigations or anything, of course you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Okay. If I ever need you guys, I have your number, and if you need a priest, I'm happy to tag along too. So.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. So on that note, we're going to say good night. Thank you for everybody that was listening, and everybody that's listening to this recorded version with our Slap Happy bonus material. But thank you all very much. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful night. And we'll see you all again on Shadow Radio Days. Good night, everyone.